Welcome back, everyone. It's been a little while since I posted the podcast, but things are up and they are going now. As you can see, this is different. This is my office, and I built this along with my studio and along with the gym and a whole part of my house. So I haven't been doing the podcast, but the reason is because all summer long I was building a studio that's up in the top of my house. So to tell a little story, my house was built in 1890 in a little tiny town in Minnesota, and one family lived in this house for up until I bought it at the end of 2022. This big Victorian styled house, beautiful, beautiful house. But the upstairs, an attic, technically is a big open space. And in my house, I have basically it's called a turret. It's like a castle. We call it Castle Williams, but it's got a big round thing that goes up with the steeple at the top, and that is where I am right now. So you can see this is my studio, and actually this is my office, not my studio. There will be a video showing the whole remodel of what it took. I mean, it took all summer long. I bet 200 hours I put into it. It's been pretty fun, and when I bought the house, it was filled with lots of stuff and some relics and just some old furniture and a bunch of old junk that had accumulated over 100+ years by one family. So one family owned it, and then I got it. So each generation just kept kind of having stuff and kind of leaving it there. So for the first winter, I heated my house with the wood stove in my basement that hooks up to my boiler with basically a bunch of old furniture and junk that was in the basement and that was up here. And it took me a little while to get going, but then I insulated the whole thing. I sheetrocked the whole thing, and then I built a studio, which is super soundproof, super awesome. And then another half of the area is a gym. And then here's my office. So this is where you're going to be seeing a lot more content. And I was pushing off the podcast until that was over. But now I got my studio built, got my office built. Things are up and going. Things are looking great. I got a lot of cool music coming out, some more really cool podcasts coming up. So I'm really excited to put it all to use and all the hard work. Now I can relax and do the fun part. But March 13th, my song, I'd Be Lying, came out. Super excited about it. Right now it's got about 285 streams on Spotify, 100 plus on YouTube. I'm not really sure. So a little under 500. So go check it out. Go stream it. Go listen to it. Share it. Super awesome song. It's the first song I did in my new studio, so I'm super excited about it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But today's episode, we have someone by the name of Kristen Leigh. They also go by Midwest American Youth, M.A.Y. It's their title. Super awesome performer, guitar player, and they call themselves a wall of sound. And I saw this person about a year ago at a North Star Original Review event. My buddy AJ over there and those guys, they put on these events where artists come and they play. They play like 4 or 5 songs, and then someone else comes on. So you get all sorts of cool artists. And it was the first time I had done a show for them. And I walk in, and she's up on stage just shredding. And just this wall of sound is the only way I could describe it. And it was really cool, really awesome music, stuff I really hadn't heard. I'm not a super huge fan of really loud rock, and I'm not a super huge fan of that, but it's like right away I was drawn in. It's like a spacey rock, kind of a very original sound. And she had a whole band with just her and herself up there playing on the loop pedal, and it's really awesome. So ever since then I've been paying attention. They've got some music out that you should go check out, and they have a single coming out March 29th and a show celebrating it on March 28th. So we talk about that in the podcast. Let's just get into it. Here we go, guys. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Outlaw Poet Podcast. Today we have Kristen Leigh, and she also goes by the name of M.A.Y. That's how you say it, right?
Yep, M.A.Y, M.A.Y, Midwest American Youth. They
Right.
all apply. Yeah.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about that? What's the origin and the meaning of that?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a loaded question. I won't get like super into it, but essentially, um, in 2015, May of 2015, I realized like I am a trans woman, and obviously I wasn't down that journey at that time, but I realized that was whether I liked it or not, that was what I was dealing with. And it kind of felt like another birthday. And I moved from Wisconsin um, to California, Bakersfield initially. And when I started making music, it was the first time making music on my own in California, where I was like doing beats on GarageBand and bass lines on GarageBand and playing guitar and trying to like, write music without waiting around for other people. And I started using like that name, May, and I made it an acronym at the time. And I didn't really tell people what the story behind it was for the longest time either. And at that time it was just like it was just me singing with like bluesy guitar. Um and it wasn't until I did some music industry stuff in California and I moved here in 2020 and had a day job and music was kind of on the back burner and some shit happened. I took some savings and I like bought a bunch of gear and I got a rehearsal space and I kind of reinvented what that meant to me, M.A.Y. Um, and really put together like a formidable like solo, really using the PA system, really like taking up a lot of space, even just like by myself. Um, so while I was in Bakersfield, I was like, what could it mean? What could it mean? What can it mean? And it eventually I did land on Midwest American youth because that's where I'm from. And it's like somewhat political and it's somewhat just like reflective. And it's a very unique way of growing up as well. But I still like kept it hidden for a long time. It wasn't until I was like a year into playing in the cities that I, put out that that's what the band name was Midwest American Youth. Um, and I've just kind of stuck with it. I don't know. Yeah. That's just been, it's just kind of felt right.
That's kind of how it comes to you, I feel like. So that's awesome. Okay. So how
Yeah.
would you describe yourself and your music style?
Um, well, it started off like, I guess, like as a guitar player, which a lot of people um might know me as like primarily is very like blues rooted. Um, but really uh singing and playing bluesy licks and stuff was cool, but I always do like a heavy rock album. I ended up like tuning my guitar to D standard when I moved here, and it kind of changed everything. And I wrote Our Galaxy in that tuning, and
So is
I
that
have a
just a
lot of
whole step down, the
full
D
step
tuning?
down. Yep,
Right. So, okay, yeah.
just full step. And but it was this, aggressive and I have a lot of like heavier rock influences. I also have a lot of like electronic, even like atmospheric electronic influences across the board. So, you know, it's so I'm sure with every artist, it's like what genre inspires you and then what genre do you write in? And I really try to like, you know, incorporate all of it to the best of my ability. Um, so it is now the first album is like a rock album. It's like an electronic album disguised as a rock album. Is kind of how I put it. And the new stuff I'm kind of revealing more electronic influences, being more straightforward about it. But it's just a solo wall of sound is the only kind of like through line. I love having a wall of sound, crescendo.
I feel like that definitely describes you and your music as well. Because when I saw you play the first time, I was like, it just kind of hit me like a wall of sound. That I had gone to your social media somewhere, and that's how you like had described yourself as a wall of sound. I was like, yeah, that is perfect. I couldn't even
Yeah.
describe it, but that's
Even if I
and
did a country song, I would find a way to make it like rich and like wall of soundy, like I feel like that's the only through line. The only rule I've made for myself is to just like max out the mix essentially.
okay. So even when you're performing live, where do you where do you pinpoint that change? Is that a lot of stuff in like your, say, your amps, or does that come in your guitar? Does it come from presets or your pedals, or how do you find a way to make that into your live performances?
The wall of sound nature of it,
Yeah.
or um yeah, it is. Well, and part of the story of being in California, I've had a lot of experience on the production side of things too. So I was a recording engineer for a few years in Bakersfield. I was a rehearsal studio operator and house tech in LA for a year. Moved here, and a lot of people probably recognize me from doing some live shows in the area as well. I've been doing a lot of those too. So this was really also a marriage of like the creative and the technical, and using both to like just kind of execute any idea that I had. So I run an Ableton playback rig on stage with me. I have an in-ear monitor. So I know when my cues are and nobody else needs to know. The guitar is like its own separate system. It's not plugged into my interface, but my vocals go through the interface, and out the interface as well. So everything is passing through the interface except for my guitar. I even take like a bass. I mean, this is getting kind of nerdy at this point, but I take a bass DI signal and I run it through. I like reamp my bass amp live so that there's still like the sound of a bassist on stage, even though there's no bassist there. But it's like all the bass parts are still pumping through a bass amp. Um, and crafting that dynamic has been a huge learning process. It has not been perfect, um, but I'm really happy where things are settling right now. It's been since 2022. I've done about 103 shows in the Twin Cities and region, and learned a lot.
Dang, I bet that's a lot of experience.
It's
Fine tuning everything each time. That explains why you're such a talented artist.
exhausting.
Yeah, I bet.
It has been very like helpful. I have learned a lot, quite honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and to talk about me in the same little kind of area of life, I don't necessarily like playing live all that much, but I've
Yeah.
noticed that when you go and do it, you really just do improve, and it forces you to get better, and it forces you just to really improve your craft, and you're not even trying, but you got to speak good when you're on stage. You got to make your sound come out right, and if you're kind of a perfectionist, there's like a way that you want it to sound, and if it's not going to sound like that, you got to figure it out.
I have so much to say. I mean, like, uh, everybody does get into music for their own, scratching their own itch, and not everybody loves performing. I think performing for me is the whole, like being on stage and having to perform something and time things out correctly, make sure everything's working properly, and all of that is it's probably why I do all of it to begin with. Um,
Live.
but like it's all valid, even if that wasn't the case. Or like, a lot of people just like to create and they like to produce, and then like playing live is like an afterthought. Totally valid as well. I'm just kind of obsessed with like the high stakes, high wire act um of it. Yeah.
Sure. And I guess, I mean, I do like performing, but not, I mean, right now I'm playing quite a bit of music. I'm playing, live gigs at like the whole bar scene, the whole 3 hour scene right now. And
Oh, sure.
that's really not quite my favorite. But for everybody
Sure.
watching, I had met Kristen at a Midway Saloon show that Nor was putting on. It was a friend
Yep.
of mine named AJ and both of us. And the first time I
Yeah.
saw her, I come in and just killing it. It was such a fun performance, and
Oh, thanks, man.
all of a sudden there was just her on her guitar, and all of a sudden, boom! Like there's a whole band playing. All of a sudden, I look away for a second. All of a sudden, I look back. She's on the bar, top of the bar, playing, shredding.
It's such a funny
I look
story,
away.
that one particularly. Yeah.
No, it was awesome. It was a great show, and
I'm
like
kind of
that's
a
definitely
stinker when
okay.
I'm in the middle of a song and like I want to like hop up on something, or like, you know, kind of like break the fourth wall a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fun, and that's how you draw people in, and like those shows I like to play a lot more. Like where people are
Yeah.
actually interested about the artistry and like the storytelling, and you get a chance to really
Yeah.
be an artist instead of just like being background noise. So I definitely do
Right.
prefer to do that, and I hope to see you guys at some shows soon. But so how did you
Yeah.
learn how to play music? I mean, so you're a singer, you produce, what all instruments do you play?
Um, the tally right now is just kind of like your rock instruments. So I play drums, I play bass, and play guitar and sing. I can find my way around a keyboard. Um, I couldn't do like a saxophone or anything like that. Any stringed instrument, I can find my voice, and
Nice.
even if it's horrible technique. Drumming was something I learned in like 2014. There was a band I was in Green Bay where I learned how to play drums for that band, and basically spent all winter we were writing music, and I learned how to play drums. So um I mean, I'm not like very technically sound. I can't do crazy fast fills, but I can like at least be in a pocket, and that's. Um yeah, I love it. The journey started with guitar. Guitar is a gateway instrument. And I was playing music with all my high school friends. Um and um we all were kind of learning together. Me, another guitarist, a bassist, and a drummer. And I think that really helped understand as we got better and like grew up and learned more of our instruments, that we found like what role each instrument plays. And um
Ooh, that's awesome. So you guys got to kind of
yeah,
grow together with your skills almost and have someone to kind of learn with. And that's a really
yeah,
cool.
and
That's
push
really
each
awesome.
other and like challenge each other and try to write stuff that like we weren't good at playing, so we had to like really reach, and it was all original stuff, which is like, you know, probably really bad looking back on it. But we were like really trying to challenge ourselves, and like, yeah, I'm just trying to do cool things, as like 17, 16-year olds.
That sounds like a great time. So you were from Minnesota, then you went to Wisconsin, then you went to California, then you came back to
Yeah.
Minnesota. Is that what I understand? So
Yeah. I
Wisconsin,
was
you were in high
born in
school, and oh, go ahead.
Minneapolis.
Okay.
Born in Minneapolis, but I started my fourth grade in Wisconsin. And
Okay.
I hadn't lived in Minnesota, like lived here until 2020.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
when you were in California, you said that's where you learned how to produce and to like mix and master.
A little bit. Yeah. I interned at a studio for a year. Um, and then he hired me on, and I was basically so there was the owner of the studio, Studios. Shout out Brian Boozer if he's out there. AUM Studios in Bakersfield. Really incredible. Bakersfield still has remnants of like the country music, vibes from back in the day. It was like the Nashville before Nashville. And so it was like a really cool experience to hop in on sessions and be an assistant, but then eventually be able to run my own sessions out of there, or to be able to like take over after 5 o'clock so he can like go to his family. Um, and we can keep going until late at night. And yeah, I learned a lot. A lot of that stuff I was already really into. Me and my high school band, when we recorded, I was the one who wanted to like experiment with, let's put the microphone here and here and here and here, and everybody was like, no, we're just recording it and we're moving on. So I had that natural inclination, but Brian really, like, as a mentor, like having that space and the equipment and the people, um empowered to like learn and use the stuff, learn how to use outboard gear, like dialing in a compressor, and like the value of a room mic, and like just all that stuff was life changing, quite honestly. It was really cool.
I bet, and you can definitely hear the creativity in your music. But how does one go about becoming an intern? Like, how did you get in that position?
So, a lot of people I've learned end up interning at recording studios as part of like their music education. Like, if they're in school for production, they need to hit a certain amount of hours. That wasn't the case for me. I was at a call center job, and like it was 2 weeks training. Like the last day of training, they're like, hey, by the way, we're closing the whole thing in 2 months. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to quit. Like, that sounds like I'm just going to get a different job. And I ended up getting a different job working at Starbucks. But then I just messaged Brian, um, like my resume and that, like, here's what I've done in the past. And I'm like really interested. Like, I'll sweep the floors, I'll take the garbage out, like, whatever. And if anybody's out there like interested in interning, the one thing I would say is like you want to be not passive in that situation. Like you want to look for work to do. Like you are, even if you're not getting paid, like you're working, you're clocked in. And that was one thing I did for like a whole year is like I showed up and I worked. He gave me like cleaning days. He gave me um, like I would, if we were done with all the studio stuff in the room and now we're editing and comping, I would start wrapping cables in the other room. Um, and I think that type of like ethic and like kind of like proactive, what's the next step? Can I go do this thing? Yeah, okay, great. And then we're making it easy for everybody. And also being really cool with the clients. Like the hang is a big part of it, like kind of knowing your lane in those situations and not overstepping and just kind of like supporting um, is really important, quite honestly.
Sounds like an awesome experience. One of the things I've done recently and why I had to kind of push this interview back was I built my own studio in my home. It's like this is actually part of the sound booth right here. I can check.
Yeah.
I'll be posting a video sometime. But my last single that I released was my first one in this studio, and
Okay.
then I spent a
Sounded great.
lot. Spent a lot. Thank you. I spent a
The
lot of
single's
time really
great.
just getting it insulated and getting it cool and getting it vibey. So, all right, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the interview with Kristen Leigh. I hope you're having a good time. It's nice to be back out here doing the podcast, trying to promote these artists. The whole point of my podcast really is to build a community with artists who are growing and learning and doing things themselves and are having a good time, may not be signed. There's so many awesome musicians and artists out there that are just putting out good art and good music and are original and creative. And that's really what the whole point of this podcast is, for me to get to know them and for you guys to get to know them. So I really hope you're enjoying it. If you're having a good time, please subscribe. Please subscribe. Go check me out on my social medias. That's all stuff you could do to support me and help me. Go listen to my music on whatever streaming platforms you listen to. If you like it, put it on a playlist. That's a super easy thing you can do to help support me and other small artists. Just put it on a playlist. You listen to YouTube, put it on song on a playlist. You listen to Spotify, put it on a playlist. You listen to Apple Music, just put it on a playlist. It's super easy thing, and share it. Just share it with people you like and people you know, people who might enjoy it. Us artists, we put a lot of work and a lot of time into our music, and it means so much to us. And a lot of times it doesn't really matter much to you guys, but it means a whole lot to us, and it's easy things you could do. Use it as a sound in an Instagram or a TikTok. Those are all things you can do to really help us. Especially right now, my song "I'd Be Lying." I hope you guys have checked it out. If not, check it out. It's on my YouTube page. It's everywhere. "I'd Be Lying" by Johnny Williams. And this song it's it came so fast. This was a song I finished my studio. I was celebrating, just kind of relaxing, and for some reason I was just kind of thinking about the chorus. The chorus just kind of came to me. Smoking weed before breakfast and the sun's already shining. I was like, oh, it's kind of fun. And I said, who would be saying something like that? Then I wrote the rest of the chorus. I've been lost in my mind. I forgot that I've been crying. And I was like, okay, that really sounded great. So the next part was, my plants are all withered like my heart that's been dying. So I was like, that took me a little bit more, like, 20 minutes to write that line right there. I was just thinking, okay, a guy, he's just been up all night. He's up early, he can't sleep. He made a bad decision and he's sad about it. So he's just self-medicating. He's up before the sun's up, just smoking and sad, being depressed. And, I was just painting the picture. I just picture, like, something around his room. What could he have? Plants that are dying. I was like, oh yeah, somebody who's depressed might forget to do that. So lost in my mind, I forgot that I've been crying. My plants are all withered like my heart that's been dying. It just kind of came to me. If I said I didn't love you, I'd be lying. So that I had that chorus for a while. It was stuck in my head for like a day, and I was just like, I like that. So I sat down and I thought, who would be singing this song? What type of person would be singing this song? And I thought a guy who's depressed, a guy, and I thought about my own personal life. And recently I got married this summer, and I was just thinking like, if I was this guy, I would be sad probably. I would only be sad this because I messed up and I lost the love of my life. So I just kind of thought about that from that guy's eyes, not my own, but tried to write it from a different perspective, a different point of view, and I just told the story. And sometimes it's like the love story comes back together and the guy earns it back, but this guy screwed up and he didn't get the girl at the end. He screwed up and he lost his chance, and now he's a sad man. And that's what the song's about. And I hope you can enjoy it, and I hope you can listen to it. I hope you subscribe. I hope you follow me on Spotify. I hope you follow me on Apple Music. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, guys. So if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, it would mean so much if you subscribe. I recently actually just kind of had a video blow up. It was such a silly video, and I hardly ever post like silly videos and stuff on YouTube. But I kind of started recently because I do stuff on TikTok. I post all sorts of stuff with my cats, and I had a video go super viral of my cats on TikTok. And I had 2 cats, one named Fleabag and one named Lynxie, and they had kittens, and they were just so cute. Fleabag is an orange tabby cat, and Lynxie's like a calico. And Fleabag I got when I bought the house, and for a year it was just me, Marcy, my golden retriever, and Fleabag, my orange cat. And I love Fleabag so much. I love my animals very much. And Fleabag, we would do everything together. We'd walk around. We'd all sit in a pile together. And, then when I was traveling with my family, Fleabag and Marcy were all with us. And it was just us two, Fleabag and Marcy. We were all traveling. And Fleabag would get out every once in a while. He spent a couple nights out on the town in Las Vegas. He spent a couple nights in the desert of Arizona. He would escape and he would go and venture off, and he'd always come back. And then we were spending a few months in Minnesota before we moved back into my house. And the night before we moved back, he got outside and we couldn't find him. So we removed, and for 4 months I thought he was dead and gone, but he came back. And we had got Lynxie when we moved back to Minnesota to be his wife. So basically right when we got Lynxie to be Fleabag's wife, he ran away, and 4 months later he came back, and the next day Lynxie was in heat, and then we had kittens, and it was just the best. Honestly, one of the most favorite times of my life was having these kittens. Oh my goodness. The family had so much fun with them. I had some viral TikToks, which was really fun, but just everywhere you go, them being these little adorable squishy kittens, like it was one of my most favorite times of my life was being around them, and I'm really glad we did it. We ended up keeping 2. One named Sweetie Petey and one name's Little Lovely, and you can see them all like on my TikTok and stuff if you're interested, and maybe I'll post them on a future video if you guys care enough. But anyways, I could talk about my sweet, beautiful kittens forever and ever, but Marcy is my golden retriever, and she's been around for 11 years. Right after I graduated high school, I went on this trip in my 1994 Nissan Pathfinder, my first car ever. I went around and I drove around the country in the West Coast and few months, and I lived in that car. And when I came back from that trip, I got Marcy, and I've had her ever since. So I think she's 11 years old now, but I can talk about them forever. But I was talking about my YouTube post that went viral, which is such a silly thing as well, because I posted a silly picture and video of up. A lot of people would tell me that I looked like Haley Joel Osment. When we were both young, we both looked very similar. So sometimes people would stop on the street and they would say, "Hey, are you the kid from The Sixth Sense?" And I was just like, "No, no, I'm not him, whatever." But when we were young, we really looked very similar, and I just there's a trend going around how they say, "Dad, what'd you look like in the 90s, right?" So I just made a joke, and I took a video of myself kind of making a face that he makes in like some of these pictures of him as a kid, and then I put pictures of him, and It went kind of not viral on Facebook, not viral on TikTok, but on YouTube on this app. I posted two of them, and they both have gone pretty viral. One has like 130,000 views, and one has like 50,000 views or something. But it's just so silly, and people are just like, uh, "This guy's not Haley Joel Osment. This guy's not Haley Joel Osment." It's like the post that made the post, the poster is Johnny Williams' music. It's like, obviously, I'm not Haley Joel Osment, guys. Calm down. But it's so silly. 100 comments, people saying that. It's like, oh my goodness, come on, it's a joke. Some people think it's funny, and I got a lot more compliments of being a handsome guy than I think I ever have in my life from that one. So I'll take it. I'll take it. But anyways, let's get back to the podcast. If you're having a good time, please subscribe. You want to support, please subscribe. You're a musician and you want to be interviewed the same way that Kristen Leigh is getting interviewed, hit me up. I would love to meet you. I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear your music. I'd love to collaborate. So let's get back to it. Yeah, well, you can definitely tell that you kind of like to experiment and you kind of like to have a different sound just by listening to your music. So it's
Thank you.
really cool to hear and really cool to. It's not really not like a lot of music that I listen to, so it was cool. And
Thank you.
when someone who's so artistically creative and somebody who's so kind of original, who are some artists that you were really influenced by? Maybe like tell me some from your childhood, tell me some from like your young adulthood, and tell me some from about now.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it because isn't it? It's like always like a moving target. Um,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I grew up being like a Tool nut as like a teenager. So like Adam Jones as a guitar player is like a huge influence. I'm sure anybody who listens to my guitar playing hears Adam Jones in there. Um, but like the Mars Volta, I don't sound anything like them, but they completely changed my life, my perspective on what rock music could be. I like hated them when I first heard them. Um, and then I'm obsessed with them. Imogen Heap was a huge one. Like her independent attitude of like kind of that production side of it. Like she produced all her early stuff by herself and wrote all of
She is
it.
awesome. I
I
only
mean,
know a few songs by her, but I
she's a
remember
legend.
when I was like
Yeah.
12 or 13, I heard Hide and Seek for the first time, and I just was blown away. That song was so cool.
Like now she has like a MIDI controller glove that she's like she's like a leader in like women in music and then also like self-producing and then also like technology, just pushing the boundaries on all those things is crazy. Like
That's cool.
it's
I did
really
see the
cool.
club video where she was doing something with it, but
Yeah, I mean that's been in development for like a decade and she's been like reiterating and reiterating and just like it's crazy.
that is cool. Sorry to cut you
um
off. Keep going, please.
no, I'm sorry. I'm like these I mean like there's an electronic artist named Dave Tipper, who's just he has this up tempo stuff and this down tempo stuff. And up tempo stuff is cool, but the down tempo stuff like hits my soul. And all that has like the atmospheric influence I have. A lot of that probably comes from Tipper and his whole collection of albums. He's also a leader in technology and like he mixed the first ever 5.1 surround sound, like mixed to a five. It was on a DVD. You had to play it on a DVD player so that a 5.1 surround sound would actually play it accurately.
Oh,
And that
that's really cool.
it's like again, it's like this marriage of like creative and technical skill or knowledge rather, and like putting those things together is really it's
And
really
that really
beautiful.
is such a valuable skill in the music industry because I'm not inclined for that at all. Like I can write a song and I can do my best to find the chords that fit along with it, but like learning how to record, learning how to do all of that, it took me a long time. It took me 2 years to just even understand logic and just like understand the phrasing and just start to clicking at the simplest. And I'm still learning with every project. And luckily, I have some friends that shout out to my boy Gary, but he helps me finish my songs up, and it's hard. So it's really a great
Yeah.
skill. And what do you have any advice from people who are trying to get better at mixing and mastering, places they can go, resources they can use, things they can do maybe to improve?
Well, it's funny because, like, there's like a baseline, there's like the physics of like electricity and just like how sound waves move and frequencies move and just like understanding those things. But then beyond that, like if you do a lot of like deep dive YouTube videos on mixing engineers or, famous or, established mixing engineers, like you got to kind of learn the rules in order to start breaking them in a way, is like getting that foundation baseline. And then I have blind spots too. It's not like I could like, explain every nitpicky thing on, on the electronics, but I understand it enough at least. And it's tedious. It's very tedious. And like, if that's not anybody's thing too, like that's also totally valid because like, you know, um, I've met plenty of artists who are great artists and they don't know anything about technical stuff. And like, that's just the
It
way
is a
it
whole
works.
different skill set. Like,
It's
not
totally,
everybody needs
totally.
it, but it seems like depends what you're wanting to do. But if these days, like you gotta have your fingers in a little bit of every bowl to kind of succeed into, unless you want to sell out to like a label or
I mean, the
hire
good
someone
news is
else and
like
spend
a lot of,
thousands of dollars.
I mean, my own setup, like I have a show on the 28th. When I show up with that rig, if I were to have built this rig 10, 15 years ago, it would have set me back way more money. It would have been like maybe 10 years ago, it all still would have been possible. Past that, it probably wouldn't have even been possible. Or like it'd be possible, but it would be like legit thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, like at that point. But these days, like it does kind of like democratize it, just like level the playing field that, if you have access to these things. I mean, messing around in GarageBand is how I learned how to use a DAW. And then once I got into Ableton, I don't even know all the ins and outs of Ableton, but I know how to get what I need out of it.
Right.
And, it's not about reading the encyclopedia. It's really trying to find like having that creative idea and then backtracking from there of like, okay, what are the technical needs in order to do that? Instead of just like trying to build this technical, if you don't have a passion for learning the technical stuff, then uh, don't learn it. But if if it is something that people are genuinely passionate about, and they're creative, then I would say start with the creative idea and work your way back to the technical so that you can figure out what techniques or what things you need to achieve it. And you're not just like, shooting, stabbing in the dark or whatever.
Yeah, that's great advice. So kind of sum that up, it's like you want to find out how to make your style work on your program first. You got to find your basic, you got to find your style, and then you got to move forward from there. Then you can be more creative once you can understand it a little bit. So, but even just figuring out what DAW you're going to use, what box you're going to use, what mic you're going to use, like all that just takes time and resources. And but kind of like you were saying too, like for instance, for my first project I released, I never pictured like or heard the guitars in the backgrounds. I never heard any of that until I sat down and started, like, I had my basics recorded and I was like, okay, now I need more layers. Now I need to find some other
Hmm.
stuff so I never would have been able to do that if I couldn't figure out the basics. And I would
Yeah,
record my guitar first and then I would do my vocals over that and then I would put everything else on there. And I know a lot of people start with drums and a lot of people will give me slack because I don't start with drums sometimes, but it's like, well, this is how I start, and this is the type of music. Like my music is a lot more simple, than yours, for instance. Like yours, I feel is a lot more to it. Probably just rock music has a lot going on sometimes in comparison to the folky kind of music that I'll play. It's like a lot of guitar
sure.
based stuff and bass based, but. like the background sounds that now like they're the only part of the like when I think of the song, I think about those little licks that I have in the background that really push it for me. And I never would have
Yeah.
got that if I wouldn't have sat down and listened to it 1,000 times on my headphones. But
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, like all the little details that people miss is like, even if they miss it subconsciously, it's there. And like, even if it's just for the sake of the story of you recording it, like if you decide to include a certain guitar on a song because that guitar has a sentimental value to you, but it's only for this one part, or you're borrowing it from a friend, or it's a family heirloom or something,
yeah,
to a listener who's just listening, like it's just a guitar. But the fact that there's a change, there's a decision you made, it means something to you. It's different than everything else on there. There's a story behind it that like isn't quite obvious. And even if somebody's not thinking about it that way, they pick up on it subconsciously that like, oh, there's more going on here than just, at glance. At least that's my philosophy. That's the thing, is like there's technical stuff and then there's philosophical
totally,
engineering and
oh
production,
totally,
so
yeah.
it's like it's hard to differentiate where one stops and one starts, and maybe it's all a bunch of gray, I don't know,
Yeah, well,
so
it's hard to do the full. It's hard to do like the fun stuff if you can't get the basics down. So, just learning the basics takes time and practice. So anybody watching who wants to get into recording their own stuff, it's like you gotta just start. You gotta start. You gotta figure it out because everything's gonna sound different. Every program you use is gonna be different. But I know people that use, like you said earlier, what's Apple's GarageBand. That's where they
GarageBand,
start.
that's the only
Boom.
reason why I still have an iPhone. GarageBand is like a sketch pad for me. I still use GarageBand. I still sample stuff out of GarageBand. Like there's no rules. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's
There's no rules.
and also it's just so like there was a singer who was asking me for some advice. Like she wanted to start recording and writing. And she was like, I've been making beats in GarageBand. I'm like, okay, great. All you need is a USB-C to headphone jack and headphones, and you turn the monitor on in GarageBand, and now you can hear yourself, not just like with the little dangly microphone, but like with the actual phone microphone. And like you can actually start, now you're not using studio time. You can just go into your closet between two shirts with a phone and start like really like recording your vocals. Ooh, that's cringy. Delete it. Start it over. Oh, I kind of like that. I mean, that's the power of just having like one or two pieces of technology, like cheap pair of headphones, cheap USB-C to headphone adapter, and now she can go write a record and like at least write her lyrics and write her melodies, and
Totally. Totally.
so it's like nobody ever, it's like to have to like, you built out your studio and I'm sure you're excited to like, you used it and you're going to keep using it or whatever. But if someone doesn't have access to something like that, it's certainly not a necessary
Totally.
for someone to just get going and like,
Yeah, in today's day and age, all you need is, like you said, two t-shirts or a blanket and some sort of recording, and you can make it just about anything work. It's pretty incredible actually. Like the first
yeah,
couple records I had, I recorded those just in a closet in my house. Like it was
yeah,
just a closet in a room I had, and I had some insulation from the construction days, like these. Then I put blankets up, and then I had some of those like little black things, and I just did my
yeah,
best, and that was where I recorded. I just
yeah,
had a little chair in there and I just made it comfy and made it kind of fun and kind of laugh at it a little bit, but it was the best thing. So if you're trying to start music, guys, all you got to do is just start. That's with any dream. That's with anything that you want to do. You just got to
start.
start and get your
You
foot in the
just put in the
door.
time
Follow it.
spent with the instrument in your hand or the microphone plugged in, time spent with those things. If it's like 95% not with those things and 5% with those things, we just gotta bump that up to 20, 30% or so or
Yeah.
more.
Let's start. I always say if you want to start something, just start off with 15 minutes a day. That's all you got to do. Pretty soon it's going
Yeah.
to get more and more, and you're going to understand it. It's not
And
going to get stressful. Like that's more for guitar when I tell people that, but same thing with
yeah, like
recording.
learning an instrument. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And also like if people are like they're passionate about it, but then they get into it and it's just not clicking and it feels like work and it's stressful, look at a different type of art form. Like
Yeah, might
it's
not
not a
be.
big deal.
And
It's
it depends
yeah,
what you want to do. Like, do you want to be somebody who's like a successful musician, or do you just want to take your time and
bro.
have some
Don't even
fun
get me
making music?
started. Don't even get me
Yeah.
started on that shit.
Well, I mean,
Fucking
yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind getting people
well,
to hear your music.
people's goalposts of success are usually like unfair to themselves. I could die tomorrow and I would be very fulfilled with the musical journey I've had without ever breaking some, I don't know, this whole jackpot mentality. Um,
What is that? Jackpot.
well, like, I don't know, people who are doing music, there's this instinct with our culture that, like, oh, maybe I'll be able to, if it gets to the point where like people are really rallying around it and you gotta go on tour to satisfy that demand, then sure, like maybe now it's your job or something. But I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves of like trying to make it whatever the fuck that means. And
Yeah,
like
whatever that
if
means,
you're
right?
making music, you are making it. If you're like performing your music, you like I don't know. I
Totally. Well, I find myself
sorry.
there. I find myself there all the time. I get it. Um, it's like well, it's also hard. Like, say you put a lot of time into a song, and you put a lot of time into learning your craft, and you put a lot of time into writing your songs, and you put a lot of time thinking about it. You put a lot of time learning your instrument, and then you put it out there. You spend years learning how to mix and master and produce. You spend years
Yeah.
building a studio. You
And
spend
then nobody
years,
listens to it.
yeah, and nobody cares. So it hurts. It's like you want to be to the point where people give a shit, and it's just like, what is that? Is that there's a couple people who like my music, or there's 100 people who like my music, or there's a stadium full of people, like so few. It happens to so few people, but at the same time, that also happens to people who are funded by giant companies and giant labels, and they're not the
I
artistry
mean,
of
even
a lot
then,
of those
like those
people is
those
hardly
people
there.
doing it. So when I worked at the rehearsal spot in LA, there were people who'd be going to the rehearsal spot to go on tour. I mean, they all worked like normal jobs and they were like losing money on the tour and like they're opening for like established artists and like they're just there. They're like, well, I guess this is what we have to do. And those experiences sound great, like don't get me wrong, like that sounds incredible, but I just want people to like love the experiences that they get without like some comparison of like, well, there could have been 100 people but there was only 20 people. It's like, well, there was 20 people there and like they listened to you
Yeah,
and they went home, and even if they don't buy anything ever and like that was the end of the experience between you and that person, like that connection happened, it was real. And also like music persists. Some of my favorite albums I haven't found until 10 years after they came out, or like 15 years
totally.
after they came out, like
Same.
it's just, I don't know, I think we all need to just like not put so much pressure on ourselves. Like if you're an artist, be an artist. I don't know, this is my it's kind of a hot take of me being like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be an artist.
Totally. No,
Just
I
make
don't
your
think that's a
art,
hot take. It's just, I
well, I
agree.
mean, these
I agree.
days it's like people are like, no, you got to be an entrepreneur, you got to think entrepreneurial and whatever. It's like, well, what great piece of music ever spawned from thinking I got to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it
First of
made
all, you don't
money.
don't tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want with my art. Second of all,
Yeah.
all right. But
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And like when you make
So
a painting, like, why are you making that painting? When you take a picture, why are you taking that picture? Like, just just
I
let it out.
suspect it's because you love the way you smatter the paint on the canvas and like you love the process of like it was nothing and now it's something. And getting caught up with anything else is really like not fair to the artist, like
There's a lot of
whatever art that is.
toxicity. There's a lot of toxic people in the music industry, though, still, where you gotta have an answer for everything. You gotta
We're going
explain
down this
everything.
rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
like you play guitar with a capo. Oh my, you're not a real guitar player.
Oh, bro. The
Just
times
do.
I've heard where like I've played a show and somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, it was cool, but really awesome if there was a drummer and a bassist." And it's like you think that. And I'm not saying that like it would be bad, but every time I've tried playing with a drummer and bassist, great friends, sounded cool, it was fun, but I go back to my tracks and it's just not the same. It just doesn't hit the same. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So it's
Not the
like
wall of sound.
there's so many rules that people make for themselves. And actually, even when I started like doing this project, my dad was like, "Well, you don't need a band. You can just play your tracks." And even at that time, I was like, "That's a bad idea, Dad. You're just being dad, whatever." But like, it ended up that's what I did. And I didn't need a band and I didn't have to negotiate anything with anybody. I could just do whatever I wanted. And that's that. So,
And that kind of brings us back to like what we were saying earlier about not like being the entrepreneur, but at the same time, like you have to put that time in and you have to grind and you have to be good enough like to play several instruments and to
hmm
understand music to make that work. So like
hmm
you can't just like that's kind of what a lot of that grind is like just like putting that
hmm
in and like now you've put in so much time and you're a talented musician and you can play several instruments and you're only going to get better by recording like that. So
I no, that time I definitely agree. Like, yeah, putting that time in is important if you love it, you know?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So
We went down a tangent. That's fun
yeah,
though. That's
it's
podcast
we could
vibes.
talk about that forever and but
I
that's all
know,
right. We don't
right?
got a time limit. We can talk about whatever we want and
Cool.
you know
Cool.
you're now in the Minneapolis scene and you lived in the cities and you started to establish yourself there. So who would you say are who are some other artists from the Minnesota area that you like
Oh,
to
I love
listen
this.
to and you want to give a shout out to or yeah, who are some local musicians that influence you and that you like?
Yeah, I gotta say, first off, so I've been doing sound in the area. I was doing it full time all last year. I was just performing and live mixing. And I met so many different artists from so many different genres and subgenres and communities, but it's all live music, people going out there performing. And the scene here is so fucking cool. Like, as a, I feel like there's a lot of people who go out to a lot of shows, but to have, I had to be there. It was a job. Um, and to have been out there so often and seen so many great audience members and great artists that live here, it's like, we're really fortunate. I don't know if like a lot of people, like, I think people know that because like we tell ourselves that, but to have experienced it myself firsthand over this past year and a half, 2 years, um, it's been really special. I've fallen straight in love with the Twin Cities music scene here,
Yeah, and
and
in
like
response to
the
that, before we
community.
move on, is like Minneapolis is really slept on for the musicians that even just the whole state of Minnesota. There's so many talented musicians here, and just people who don't perform, people who are retired, people who they're not about recording and they're not about that life, but they're just skilled musicians who love music and people don't know out about the Twin Cities. And I know that like I'm pretty sure
They do
Minneapolis,
now.
well, for the people that are
not for
watching,
the not for the right reasons,
but
maybe,
I
but
but I try to tell people like Minneapolis has more live music than Nashville does, allegedly. But
or at least the amount. I mean, the vibe. I don't know what population differences there are, but like, yeah. I mean, if anybody follows Undercurrents Minneapolis, you see how many bands and shows there are each and every day, and it's like, you know,
and the different levels
you
of
could
live
throw a
music
dart
too.
and it would be a good time.
Yeah, definitely. And you can find, like I said, you can find that at all different levels. There's the big
Yeah,
giant stadiums, but then there's the smaller venues like the Palace and First Ave, and then you have little live music at restaurants and places all over. Like when I was living in Vegas, like you couldn't go and play a 3 hour set at a
No.
bar or a restaurant. Like you couldn't. They wouldn't want that. And like here, there's live music everywhere. A patio, live music. There's
Yeah.
it's really a great. It's really a great spot.
Excuse me. No, it's amazing. I do want to give a couple shout outs though. I share a studio space with this band called Crash Cuddle.
Crash
Shout
Cuddle.
out shout out Charlie and Garrett. They're a duo
Hey y'all.
and they're fucking they're badasses
What's
and they're
their
really good
style?
friends.
What type of music do they make?
Oh man, if I put them in the box, they'll be mad at me. No, it's so let me put it this way. Charlie, the guitarist, brings in like two refrigerator sized amps and then there's a drum set and Garrett's popping a vein smacking on his drums, so they're
Okay.
very raucous and like they cause a
Pretty heavy.
ruckus. It's like definitely heavy, but there's like kind of like cool rhythmic dancey moments, and some people might call them prog or some people might just call them like maybe they brush up against metal for some people, but they really kind of are their own version of rock, whatever, that's like their own thing, and
Right.
it's really cool. So that's that. I just last Sunday produced with my friends. I produced their I'm producing my friend's album. Like that's like such an honor for me. War Cake is another duo, Valerie and Kayla. They are they would call themselves like um a doom, maybe grunge doom, very like subdued, delayed vocals, very nasty bass guitar, and again booming drums. Um, and then their new record is going to sound insane. We just literally recorded the Foundation like 6 songs last Sunday, and it's hype. So those are like
Awesome.
they're close friends, but I also am like very big. I'm a big fan of their songs and their music. So it's like
Do they ever play live in the Twin Cities?
definitely Crash Cuddle is going to be playing at Cloudland in June. War Cake, I don't know when their next show is, but I'm sure it's like within the next 3 or 4 months. I'm sure they'll have something. So
Nice. Okay. Well, thanks for shouting them out.
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of great artists as well. Uh, I mean, it's hard to like. It
Yeah.
was
Once you
easy
get
to
put on
pick
the
them
spot.
because I actually like hang out with them and like share studio space with them, and I just produced their album, so that's kind of like my cop out
Well,
answer.
perfect. Well, no, that's a great answer. I hope people check them out. So,
Yeah,
what was it? Cuddle Party? No,
yeah. Crash Cuddle and
Crash
War
Cuddle. Oh,
Cake.
sorry,
Crash
Crash
Cuddle and War
Cuddle
Cake.
and War Cake. Okay,
War Cake,
awesome.
badasses.
They sound like it. So, I asked this question on all the podcasts: Is did you have an I love music moment where you decided this is what I want to do with my life? And if you did, can we hear about it, please?
Kind of, yeah. The one that I usually go back to is when I was like 14, 15. Me, my friend Alicia, and Caitlin would all hang out at Caitlin's house. But Caitlin had an electric guitar that she had just got, and she had like a tab book with like Nirvana songs on it. And so I like would borrowed I like took her guitar and I'm like, I want to learn something. And she like flipped to Nirvana's cover, The Man Who Sold the World. And I learned that like little line, like na 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 na. And bro, it changed everything. I heard it and it was like exactly how I remembered it, listening to it. And it like just was so empowering of like, oh, I can do that too. And I literally have never stopped playing guitar since. So like while
That's
that wasn't like a this is my life, it was like I was like I'm obsessed, ever since
nice.
then.
Nice, a magical song
Yeah.
too. That's awesome.
I know,
I
that's such a
love
good
that
song
song.
anyway. I
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's what happens, when you make good art and you make good stuff. David Bowie wrote the song, and then of all people, Nirvana covers it, and
Right?
now because you heard it and because you could make that art with yourself. Now you're a musician, so you never know what your
Right.
actions are going to do, and you never know who they're going to influence.
Absolutely. That's the other thing too. You mentioned earlier is like, we put on all the music artists out there, put on a lot of work, and there's always this vulnerability of releasing your music, and you don't know. But the thing is you will never know the ripple effects that it has because, but there will be ripple effects,
Yeah.
like whether they're measurable or unmeasurable. You may not get a KPI report, but there are ripple effects. There's certain things that stick out. um I'll have like friends bring up like random YouTube videos that have like 400 views that they still love to go back and listen to because because it just was like impactful for them. And there's like, you just never know. You never know how you're serving other people.
One that is kind of hard for us, and we're kind of a little we're fortunate in some ways and unfortunate in some ways with the how accessible it is to release music, because
Right.
like the average amount of songs released in a year, like in the 90s, was like 300,000 a year. And
Right.
now there's like,
Just like
I'm pretty sure that's
millions.
that many a day. Like
Right.
it's crazy. Like, so some of that music is just timeless because there wasn't so much, but now it's like it's so you get lost. The ripples get lost in the lake, kind of, and it's because there's just so much music that gets out, and but that also leads you to having your own type of fan base, because even though you like you were talking about your friends and how they, you don't want to give them a label or whatever. It's like you can give yourself as many labels now as you want, because that's how you're going to find your people, is like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And that's the type of stuff that
Right.
kind of finds you your base. Like I'll call myself like folk rock, but it's so much more. I got a lot of country in my voice, but I got
Of
some pop in
course.
there, and I got some bluegrass. Like, I listen to a lot of real old country these days. But I'm not
Yeah.
playing like I'm not singing the twangy stuff too much. But
Sure.
there's influences of that in all of that different kinds of my music. So what am I supposed to say? I'm old country, blah 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 blah. You got to kind of just come up with your own and just kind of run with it,
Right.
because there's just so much music, and you have to find your group of people. But I was
Yeah,
listening, I've been
definitely.
listening to your music ever since I met you. And
I
so
appreciate that,
let's
dude.
talk about
That's
Our Galaxy. That was
cool.
the first album you had put out.
Cool. Yeah, it was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And guys, this is a really cool album. It's definitely been slept on. Go get some listens to it on Spotify and everywhere. But I think, my favorite kind was, or my favorite song was For All Mankind, or maybe Red Lights. One of those
Oh,
two, I
sure.
think. But
Sure.
I was talking to Kristen before we were talking before the podcast started, and I was just talking about how it's like you're in a spaceship, guys, like a spaceship movie. It's like that, and at the same
I
time,
love
it's like
that.
you're in the middle of an epic battle scene. It's like really cool, really sets a mood and sets a tone, and it's like there's nothing quite like it that I've heard. So, guys, go check it out, give it a listen, share it, do with all business. But I want to hear about it, and I kind of want to hear tell me about writing it, kind of tell me about what the theme of it is, and kind of tell me a little bit about the recording and producing aspect of that whole album.
Yeah. Um, gosh, it was very formative. That was So I told you earlier I tuned my guitar to D standard. And essentially like, and then I also had a thing in my day job where some things shifted around, and I was like, how am I spending my time and my energy? So I invested into, some gear, into a studio space, and I had a few songs written already, and I finished the rest of that album essentially. And then there's probably some songs I even cut. But it was like from 2020 to 2024, May 1st of 2024 is when the album came out. So it literally took writing, recording, um, mixing, all of it. It's 3, 4 years to do it. And during that time, I was like, Um, I have my own personal growth story that's going on in the background, even though I'm trying to achieve this thing. The most amazing part of that whole record experience was um, I was at Minnehaha Recording Company. Shout out Tony and Elijah who helped me record it. Um, and I was joking with Elijah. He was like, "Oh yeah, some of your recording techniques remind me of Sylvia Massey." And I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll like ask her to mix it." And we all kind of laughed or whatever. And then I was like, "Well, fuck it." And I sent an email to her and her husband Chris, who manages her studio, and she agreed. And I had to pay Sylvia Massey rates, but she agreed to mix my record. So she was the only collaborator I've had on that album. And,
That's really cool.
she's
So
like a
for people who
hero
don't
to
know who she
me.
is, can you tell me about who she is?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Sylvia
Yeah.
Massey is a music engineering legend. If you love rock music from the 90s, you probably have heard her stuff. I mean, she did like, obviously like Tool, Undertow. I think she did the Salvo EP as well. She did like Smashing Pumpkins. She did
Wow.
Johnny, fucking Hurt, the Nine Inch Nails cover.
Oh, Johnny
Fucking
Cash.
Johnny Cash's like later in life record. She was the engineer. Rick Rubin was the producer. She recorded those songs.
Wow, that's really
Um,
iconic. I know about that
System of a
album pretty well.
Down. Fuck, like the list goes really on and on and
Okay,
on.
so a legend in the producing world, or yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
producer, engineer, mixing, and yeah, and I'm like nobody, I don't have a label, I don't have anybody, and I just emailed her, and she was like, yeah, like this is really cool. She's like, her exact words was like, I would slaughter this, and I was like, slaughter
Enough
away,
said.
like, right.
That's
And like,
awesome.
I'm sure she was like trying to make do with the best that she had. I didn't have real drums. I had real cymbals tracked, but I'm sure she would have really preferred real drums. So she convinced me for the last song that we did, Ascension. She actually brought a drummer in, and we did real. He basically followed my template and did real drums. Um, because
Cool.
why would I? I'm not going to say no if Sylvia Massey wants to record drums on something.
Yeah.
Um, and
Wow.
that was
Cool.
like another thing where it's like, that cost 10 grand to mix that record. And I spent that money over the course of a year, just
It
like
costs 10 grand.
piecemeal. Yeah.
Damn, that's
To
crazy.
do 8 songs, in my particular situation. And but it's Sylvia Massey, and it's like a bucket list thing. And you know, a lot of people would probably go into that thinking like, oh, well, this is maybe some sort of ticket into some next level or whatever. And like, I admittedly had some sort of thoughts like that as well. And, nothing came of it. And that's great. Like, I got to do that. Like, she was my only collaborator. We were basically, we talked a few times, but we were really communicating with our mix, like my rough mix that I sent to her and what she did with it back. And then if I had any ideas, how she interpreted those. Like, that was like, I learned so much just from doing that, just from like hearing. I was so intimately aware with those stems that hearing what she did to certain things, even today I hear things that I didn't quite catch at first. And I was just like another client for her at the time, which is cool. It's totally cool. Like it's, you know, but um, knowing that I was going to be putting all that time and energy and effort and money and everything into it without any expectation of anything in return taught me a lot. That really was like the moment of like, oh, like I'm either going to do this just for the sake of doing it, or I'm not going to spend this money. And so I did it for the sake of doing it. And, I'm really proud of it. I still wish I could change things about it. But it's kind of like of its time as well. That album it means a lot to me. It's my soul, it really is.
Well, that's so cool. What a cool story. You got to
It's
work with one
crazy.
of one of your heroes. Like that's
Truly.
that gives me lots of ideas of things I should do because how did you even find their email?
So they have a shop. They have a studio up in Washington, Oregon, rather, and the audio shop. But it's like ODDIO, audio, like odd, and and I just emailed them, and they probably can't say yes to everybody, but they said
Right.
yes to me, and so I gladly went into debt for a year, one by one, just like sending money. Here's the project, spend money, get it back for the whole year. And I ended up actually piecemealing my singles out the previous year because of that. And then got everything. I did like maybe 3 or 4 songs at the end, all together, and got it all, and then put the whole album out. And went on a little tour, and I was already working on new music at the time. By the time that was out too, and just kind of on to the next thing. And now it's like, you know, etched in stone. It happened,
Yeah,
so
that is so cool. That's awesome. So would you say that you have a favorite song from that album personally?
probably not a surprise to anybody who's seen me play, but Waves and Frequencies is like, I love that song. I mean, the title track, Our Galaxy, means a lot to me. The whole album means a lot to me. For all mankind. Siren is like means a lot to me. But when I perform Waves and Frequencies and that wall of sound kicks in, it's like, you know, it's like it's like therapy for me. I just want to scream at the top of a tree. And that's me screaming at the top of a treetop like a bird. So
I love that. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
guys, for everybody watching, this album is really cool. And you also have a single called Cherry Wave.
Yeah. Cherry dot wave, just
Cherry
like the
Dollar.
audio, like an audio file, like a dot
Yeah,
wave
yeah.
file. Yeah.
So what does that song mean to you and is it a why don't you give me the same kind of rundown? So what's the
I'd love
story of the
to.
song and where did you record it and did you produce it? That type of thing.
So Andy Sawhawk, shout out Andy, Andrew. He reached out to me randomly late one year. I think it was like late 24, um, saying that they're going to be doing this like Deftones compilation album, and like half the artists will be from the Twin Cities, and he wanted me to like include something. And I said yes, because the Deftones were like a huge, I didn't bring them up earlier, but they're very inspiring to me. They're great. And um, so I decided to choose Cherry Waves, their song Cherry Waves, as a cover because I loved it. And that whole album I love very dearly.
So that
Um,
song is a cover
it's a
of the Deftones.
Deftones,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
Deftones cover, yeah. And it was all part of this Deftones compilation. And the compilation was to raise money for Oasis for Youth, which basically you can still buy it. It's called For the Song You Saved. And if you go to forthesongyouSaved.bandcamp.com, it still is sending money to Oasis for Youth. And they basically empower at risk or unhoused youth to get like jobs and get steady. Um, and that was like my first kind of foray into like committing a song for fundraising. And I realized it really like meant a lot to me. um, I produced it myself. I kind of had an idea of how I wanted to interpret the song to begin with, um, but I ended up recording it all myself. I sent it to my buddy to like master essentially, and that was it. um,
Right on.
um,
That's really
but
cool.
yeah, I had kind of like a Deftones summer last year. It was like I did that cover, the compilation came out, and everybody on the compilation did an amazing job. A lot of local artists on there, and it got some like worldwide attention a little bit. And like we got plays from all over. And then Deftones came, they like put out their new album that same year, and then they came to the Target Center, and like I was like right on the rail in the center at Target Center, just like right up front. It was crazy. I was leaning hard into it.
That sounds awesome,
It
especially
was
for
very
artists,
fun.
an artist that you really like. So that leads us into
Yeah.
your new release, which is coming out on what day?
March
March
29th,
9th. March
going
29th.
down, titled Going V, because it's a down arrow. Um, yeah, that was while I was paying Sylvia, I was going through some medical things and recovering, and I like just grabbed a MIDI controller and started writing synthesizer music. And this EP that I'm doing, this single, um, is like basically came from that. Um, and it's been a challenge. It's been a totally different approach to recording and producing. And it's taken a long time. It's probably been like 3 years now. It's weird to say that, but
Years since you've been working on the song, or since you recorded? Oh,
yeah,
okay. So what took you?
yeah.
So what took so long with this song?
I think the lyrics, fine tuning the lyrics. I had lyrics in it before that just weren't, they were okay, but they never, and then like the production of it, you know, figuring out how to really like give that song um the wings as best as I could. It's so simple at its core, so to make it like really interesting throughout the whole thing was like really challenging to me. um
Sure.
and now it's like it's one of my favorite songs I've ever done. And then now the lyrics are like really personal, and they like really like capture how I feel about my lived experience and just kind of how the world is. And um some
So so
sad
how do
girl
you write
vibes.
a song when you're writing a lyrics to a song?
Yeah.
What does that process look like for you?
um well, it's funny because like I don't know, like For All Mankind, like those lyrics just happened in like 2 days. Like they just kind of happened. And I'm sure you know this too with your music, is like sometimes they just kind of write themselves. And then sometimes it's like, this is probably the longest I've like reiterated lyrics on a song, because I didn't want it to be corny for myself. I didn't want, like, not for anybody else, but like I didn't want to cringe at anything myself. And then, but I still wanted to like touch upon some like tropes at the same time, or like themes while still keeping it fresh. And I don't know, I'm probably just really annoying to myself about like, but yeah,
Tough. It's tough.
it
I
is tough.
understand. It's like
Yeah.
you got a story you want to tell, but then it's so easy to be so hard on yourself about the story. And it's
Yeah.
about yourself also. So it's like, how vulnerable do I want to be? How honest am I being? Is this, it doesn't all have to be about me, but most of it's about me. This part's about someone else, it's, I get it. It's tough. But so for
Yeah.
instance,
Yeah.
let's just pick like your song that you're releasing. So
Yeah.
when you started writing that
Going
song,
down.
what was the first? Yeah, so for going, is it going down or coming down?
Going down.
So for going
Going down.
down, which comes out on March 29th,
This Sunday. Well,
going
March
down with
29th,
the
but yeah.
V.
That's right. That's right.
So for this song, what was the first lyrics of this song that you had written?
um that's a great question. um
Do you start with the hook? Do you start with the chorus? Do you start with the verse? Do you start with a part in the middle?
I think I I probably started with the original version of the verse that is no longer there. So like right now, my first lines are my time, my life, my peace of mind. And like it used to be like, I'm a sad girl drama queen, so let's get high. And it's like, yeah, that might be accurate with how I feel, but like it wasn't quite like I wanted it to be not so specific, so that when people are listening to it and going through their own shit, that they could like really latch onto it,
Sure.
as opposed to just making it being really specific about this one thing. Um, and then peace it's, you know, you think of peace of mind, but it's really peace of mind, like I'm giving you a piece of my mind. PEICE, you know, it's like so um um that was
Actually,
probably it. But
that's so funny because in my first project I ever released, I have a song in there called "Peace of Mind" that's spelled the same way. It's not like
right.
PAC, but PIECE.
Okay,
Peace of
cool.
mind, yeah. And
Right.
it's not a piece. Like if you listen to the song, it's just like a piece of my mind, a piece of what's going on. It's not necessarily. Nobody's ever said anything about it. So, but for me, it's like
Yeah,
I know that in my head. It's like it's not the saying peace of mind, but it's a
right.
peace of mind. So that's so funny that you say
Right.
that because I got the same thing.
But the chorus is the same though. So like I'm going down like a submarine, which at the time that like whole submarine fiasco was going on, so it just kind
Oh
of came
yeah,
into my head.
with the rich
And
people.
drowning, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And like drowning in a crowded street, and boy, like you think you can fix a girl like me. I mean, that hasn't changed since then. So that was like the song. I knew that that was like the song, and then that the
sure.
verses just needed something else. So
Okay, so do you like to find yourself writing the lyrics first and then finding the music, or vice versa, or is it different every time?
I don't think I've ever written a song where I write lyrics down and then find a way to make the music fit. To anybody who can do that is like, hats off. This is like, I find it very difficult. I need to have some, even if it's just a chord on repeat or like, or two chords or like something. I just need
Sure,
something to tap into and create a visual. And, you know, I think I like to tell stories. It's like a storytelling thing,
sure.
probably. So as soon as I hear the music, I can put myself in a different world or a different environment and start writing that story. So
Okay, so you like to kind of give yourself a little baseline, give yourself some sort of structure of in the music realm to help tell the story. That's awesome.
mhm.
See,
Mhm.
I like to write my story first most of the time.
That's incredible.
90% of my songs come from like a story or an idea or like a hook that I hear in my head
For
and then
sure.
for a long time like I'm not that great of a musician. You know, I'm a decent and I'm trying to improve every day, trying to get better.
Wow,
But
your song is cool.
at first it was really hard for me to do it that way because I just could never
Yeah.
find the right chords. I was limited. But
Yeah.
like for instance, I've got a song named Issues and I wrote it. I talk about it sometimes. I wrote it a long time ago, and when I was just learning how to play guitar for real, I kind of wrote it. And I remember I couldn't find like, it's like an A minor, F, E, A minor, like dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. But I just had like a bass, like a little boom, boom. And I just would kind of play that on my guitar. And I was trying to find the chords. And I was trying to find the chords. And finally, I went to
Yeah.
Guitar Center. I asked some dude who was in Guitar Center shirt, some old guy. I'm like, hey, dude, I've been trying to find this freaking chord for 2 weeks. What do you think? He's like, oh, that's an E7, like this. Song was written, finished. But
Shout out to that guy.
yeah, whoever he was, whatever his name was.
You
But
know
in
what's
like,
funny is Sheryl Crow, I remember listening to an interview where she said that she likes to write songs with a bass guitar because then you're just working with one
sure,
note, just a root
yeah.
note, and you can kind of build a whole song around it. And I've never like tried it myself, but I love Sheryl Crow to
Yeah,
death.
that's a great
And
idea.
that was like a really inspiring, yeah, that was a
I feel
really
like the same with
inspiring,
piano because the chords, you can just play your simple chord and then kind of let it ring out and
yeah,
boom, boom.
yeah. You can let
I,
your ideas kind of like, you know, soak in the sauce a little bit or whatever, you know.
yeah, I've always had like a harder time. Well, I feel like for my writing process, I have a story I want to tell, and that comes just from like more of a poetry style inside of my head, inside of my heart, and I'll have an idea, or I'll find myself saying like a phrase a lot, and then all of a sudden that phrase will like turn into a song, and like one of my
Right.
all the outlaw poet, so a lot of my stuff comes from the poetry that I hear inside my heart, inside my head, and stuff. But
That's cool.
like for
That's
instance,
cool.
my last song that I released, it came out March 13th. I'd be lying, everybody. I was just kind of being silly with the
Shout out. It's
chords.
great.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. And it was so fun to finally, after all the work I put into this studio, because I mean, I put about 200 hours into building this side of my house like this summer, and just it was a lot of work. So finally, just sitting down and doing all the recording, and this song came to me like in 3 days. Like I wrote the
Oh, that's
chorus, I was just
great.
sitting
Oh, so
down, like
this came like after you built your studio. So you're
yes,
in
yep,
your new space and suddenly now ideas are flowing.
yep.
That's such a cool feeling. That's
Well, I was
cool.
hoping that was going to happen because I've just been working so
Yeah.
hard at doing all this stuff. And, I kind of have been stuck on some old projects that I've been trying to come to light that I haven't just quite gotten. But, that song I was just goofing off kind of in my head just right now. I was like, smoking weed before breakfast and the sun's already shining. And the chorus just kind of came. I was like, that's silly.
Yeah.
I kind of like, but it's actually, then I sat down, I was like, who would be singing this song? Like who would be saying this chorus, And it's like, and I got thinking to myself, like I got married this summer, and I was like, what would
Congratulations.
thank you. And I was thinking like what would I have to do to be singing those lyrics in my own life? And then I wrote like a story of just like, losing somebody from dumb decisions, and it's
Yeah.
the song kind of goes, and then yeah, that one, the lyrics came first and then the music came. But enough about me.
No, that's interesting. It's
This
interesting.
next
A lot of hip hop, it's like kind of a hip hop take of like rap take of like, it's really just like poetry based. And you can find any when the right beat comes, it like it
Yeah.
hits, but you kind of you maybe try things on different beats, or you're like,
Yeah, and you can
you
kind of
know,
mold it to it's moldable that way.
right.
It doesn't have to be exactly the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to also ask this question to everybody. How are you
Yeah.
working on improving your skills on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I am like, well, I took a long break from like really diving in headfirst for a while. It was like 4 or 5 months. Again, there's always like personal things going on, and I'm never one to just like force it. But now that I am like diving headfirst into it, I've, again, it's like I think what I love about all of this is my marriage of the creative and the technical. So I'm learning DMX lighting, like programming my lights to a show. Um, I want to take the live experience to a surrealism level with not just lights, but with like costume and prop, and like make it more like theatrical and
More
like
big production in the show.
I want it to feel larger than life, even if it's in like a normal size, like local venue.
Well, you're already
And
doing a great job, so but no,
that's
totally. I
that's that's
totally
how I'm
see that.
challenging myself. And I
I
want to like
totally see that by seeing you play live. So that's awesome. But continue, sorry.
no, that was it. Was like, um and that makes me nervous to try these things live. And if I'm making myself nervous or vulnerable, that means I'm probably doing something right, So
So for
hopefully.
improving for you, a lot of your mindset is on how you can show the vision that you have in your head while you're performing. So for music for you, it's like telling your story, but the performance is kind of what drives you, it seems like.
The live experience, a curated live experience is like will never there's no replacement for that. Like
Totally.
uh
That's awesome.
and as someone who's done live sound myself a lot, and having a hand in curating those things even if I'm not on stage, that really is like the passion for me, is to make this next 45 minutes that people are going to spend with me uh really feel like the stakes are high, and that we're gonna all feel something together, like, and
That's
when it
awesome.
ends it's gonna be a little awkward, you know
That's awesome. Like
It'll just be quiet.
the commitment that I see coming from you, and like that aspect is really awesome. And I really hardly
Thank
do
you.
see that. So I just want to say like I'm a fan, and like the
Oh
way what you're
man.
doing is awesome because like I've seen a lot of people play live since I saw you play live over a year and a half ago, and I hardly remember any of them. There's some that I do remember, but you left a great impression. Your artistry is really awesome. I hope to see you live
That means a
soon.
lot.
it's
That
hard
means
for
a
me to get
lot.
out to the
Yeah.
cities. I try. I'm a country boy these days. It's hard to get me to leave the house, and it's hard to get me out there. But I
You just
would
build a
love to.
whole ass studio, bro. Stay
Yeah,
in the house. Stay in the house.
yeah. I've got to. I love my house, and I love my yard and my animals. We just
Yeah.
had kittens, and we ended up keeping two. And
Oh,
I got two cats, Fleabag and Lynxie, and they had a bunch of
cute.
kittens. And actually, I had my first viral video on TikTok that had 1 million views, and of course, it has to be the cats,
The kitten, of course.
the
I
little
mean,
cute little kittens. I came
right.
downstairs one day, and they were all like in a little heart on a mat, and
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
just took I
cute.
just was taking videos of like the cats or whatever for my TikTok, and all of a sudden my phone is blown up. I got 1 million views on it, but
Oh my
but
gosh,
what's
funny.
next for you? So what is the next step for you after? So we've got this single and this EP coming out on March 29th. Then what's up next? What's the next thing for you?
So the next big thing for me is last year I did my first residency at Mortimer's Bar. I don't know if you've been to Mortimer's before,
I haven't, but I remember seeing your
but
posts about it.
yeah, it's an iconic dive. All walks of life go in there. And for the month of May, they gave me every Wednesday in May last year to host a residency. And I was running sound for those events as well. So I was like performing and running sound for all my friends who I asked to perform with me. And it was a really, again, like curated experience. And I'm going to elevate it this year. I'm going to be bringing things, lights, and like I just
Cool.
have some things I'm gonna be doing that is gonna be it's not gonna be your typical local show. And I'm really focusing my energy on that. I have my show coming up on the 28th at Underground Music Venue. That will be kind of starting to dabble into it. But the full crafted experience, I'm really going all out for the Mortimer's residency this year.
So
Um,
every Wednesday in May this year, we can find you playing at Mortimer's. Do you have a time that you'll be playing there?
every Wednesday in May. I think doors will typically be 8. Um, and then music at 9, I start, and then my friends will close out the night. Then I ask. I have
Cool.
the artists confirmed. The second week is going to be a really cool collaboration. It'll be. I'm really excited about it. Quite honestly, I
Nice. It's
like
exciting.
did a photo shoot for a poster. I just for this residency. Uh, I'm trying some things, and it's gonna be that's how I challenge myself, and it's gonna be the next big thing for me. So
Awesome. Well, that is really cool. All right. So the last question I got, I stole
okay,
this. I stole this from a guy's podcast I was on.
okay.
Is there anybody you would like to see me interview? If so, who you think would be good on this Outlaw Poet
Oh, that's
podcast?
cool. A ton of people. I mean, I'm gonna be posting, and pushing your stuff out and promoting this podcast out. So I think a lot of the local artists in the area would benefit from somebody taking interest in what they're doing.
And just
Um,
response to that before you say your next thing is for everybody watching. I really do love you heard me talk about earlier in the podcast the local music, and Minnesota's got some of the best music. I've always been surrounded by good music and people who know and love music, and I'd love to have you guys on. I'm passionate for it. I'm passionate to get to know you. I'd like to build a community with this younger generation of just making Minnesota the best place to play music, because there's so much great artistry and there's so much great music, and like your voices should be heard, and I want to hear them. I don't have the hugest platform, but I think together we can all do it, and I'd love to hear you guys. So rant
and
over.
just having a platform like you inviting me on here, it was a space for me to share my story. There are things that I've told you in here that I've never had an opportunity to like share with people before. And I'm
That's
not
great.
one to
I'm
like go
super
out of
happy
my
to hear it.
way to like make it the topic of conversation either. So
And
it
my
really
goal, my
is
goal is kind of
helpful.
to give you a platform to, you know, go check out. I talk about that in the podcast. So if you got a question, you go, you know, who are you and what is it that you want to leave in the world? And like, you've done a great job at telling, and you're a good storyteller. And I think that we've gotten to know you pretty well through this podcast today. And I'm super grateful that you came on. And,
Definitely.
I'll be looking
You can
forward to
tell it's
seeing
been a
you.
while. The lights have come on and
Oh, yeah. What's been out? What time is it?
I have no idea. I
Okay.
have no idea.
Well,
Whatever.
the other two podcasts that I've done, so this is going to be the third one that was released. They ended up
Oh,
being way,
cool.
way longer than I was like 45 minutes and then like 2.5 hours. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
whoops.
That's cool.
I'm just too
Whatever.
interested. I'm too interested.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Well, everybody, thanks for having you, Kristen. And
Thank you so
check her out,
much.
M.A.Y, on all platforms, all streaming platforms. New single coming out this March 29th.
Yep.
She's got a show the night before at,
Yep.
where is it again?
Underground Music Cafe, downtown Minneapolis. And then I have a website, midwestamericanyouth.com. It's
That's
just
all going
kind
to be
of
in the bio, guys. The link will be able to be clickable. But
appreciate
go
that.
follow her on social medias. Just support her, and thanks so much.
Thank you.